I'm Rita, and I'm currently the Director of Operations for iNAPS, and I just, on behalf of our whole organization, welcome you, and thank you for coming.
Thank you very much, Rita. That was a nice introduction. I am the moderator. I'm Peter Ashenden. I'm the Director of Consumer Affairs for Optimum Behavioral Health Solutions, a position I've been in now for 7 years. I've loved the partnership that we've developed with iNAPS. They can bring continuing education, skill building, knowledge building, all the things that we I think are important in terms of peer support are brought through these webinars. And they are a good way for you to take and continue to take and learn and grow in the field. So we very much encourage everybody to be part of this. Certificates are an iNAPS member benefit. So if you are a member, you can take and get a certificate after you complete a 5-question quiz, I believe. Thank you, Optum. We appreciate it. And again, we appreciate the fact that we've had this wonderful collaboration, and we continue on with this wonderful collaboration.
Namaste. Welcome to each and every one of you. Thanks to Optum and iNAPS for making this webinar possible. Thanks to David for recording the webinar. And thanks to Rita and Peter for the opportunity to present the webinar, The Power of Storytelling. I'm absolutely delighted to be here with all of you this morning. Stories, as we know, have the power to inform, inspire, and transform our lives. Stories connect and comfort us in our shared struggles as a common humanity. They help us know that we're not alone and give us hope that we need to cope, survive, and thrive. And when it comes to matters of mental health, stories have the power to save lives and create social change. Next slide, please. During this webinar, you will learn about the power of storytelling to save lives, the power of storytelling to create social change, and how you can share your story to make a difference. The power of storytelling literally saves lives. I've always been mesmerized by the power of storytelling. As a little girl growing up in India, my life was shaped by the many stories my mother told me from the ancient epics of Ramayana and Mahabharata. While her stories lulled me to sleep, I was awakened by the dreams my father spun for me. Sitting on my father's lap, gazing at the crystal blue waters of the Pacific Ocean, the expansive palm-lined streets of Los Angeles, and the majestic cliffs of the Grand Canyon photographed in the National Geographic magazines that my father loved to read, I could almost picture myself in these far-off places. Princess, one day you will send me pictures of you visiting these places, my father would say, planting a kiss on my head. I believed my father's dream would come true. But at 18, when panic pounded my heart, anxiety coursed through my veins, and my soul was darkened by depression, I had no words to describe my horror, and my parents had no words to comfort me. Ignorant about mental health issues, my parents and physicians did not understand my pain. Having no words in my culture to even conceptualize my suffering, I became convinced I was going crazy. Terrified, I hid behind the facade of normalcy while my world began to crumble. At 22, I married and moved to Portland, Oregon. Traveling across the beautiful United States of America with my husband, Ron, I was overwhelmed with gratitude. Much to my father's delight, I mailed him pictures from all my travels. Mysteriously, my symptoms waned for a while, only to return with a vengeance. At 23, I gave birth to my first daughter. While my baby grew radiant by the day, I grew despondent by the minute and struggled to free myself from the death hold of depression. At 25, I had a massive breakdown during my trip home to India and was rushed into shock treatments, antidepressants, and psychotherapy. My deeply religious in-laws requested a priest to come home to exorcise the demons in me, and he molested me. For days, I remained in a catatonic stupor, mute with grief. Shackled by the insidious chains of stigma, shame, and secrecy, I returned to Portland and began living like a prisoner in my own home. And despite access to the best healthcare professionals, I continued to cycle in and out of depression. At 27, having survived multiple suicide attempts, pregnant with my second child, and in utter despair, I finally chose to get hospitalized, despite my fears of getting locked up in a mental hospital. Somewhere deep in my heart, I believed that here in America, the land of the free, people would treat me with dignity. But I was wrong. I was traumatized when I got locked up in an isolation cell, twice within 10 days, and lost the pregnancy in between. It is here in the dark pit of despair that a stranger came to visit me and changed my life forever. Her name was Aida. Aida was my husband's boss, Ralph's mother-in-law's friend. She had overheard Ralph tell his wife, Karen, about my recent suicide attempt and hospitalization, and had insisted on visiting me at the hospital. Although we had never met, Aida came to comfort me in my darkest hour of need. "Look at me," Aida kept saying, sitting next to me on the hospital bed, but I couldn't look at her. I was filled with shame. "Look at me," she kept insisting, prying my chin up with her fingers. When I finally looked into her eyes, I nearly buckled into her arms. Aida was a beautiful Armenian woman in her 50s with the grace of Jackie Kennedy and the compassion of Mother Teresa. Her very presence was healing. "I bet people look at you and wonder what in the world you have to be depressed about," Aida said. "Look at you. You're young, you have a loving husband, a beautiful little girl, and a fabulous future in America. You have everything a woman can dream for. But I know that every day is a nightmare for you. I know how worthless you feel when your little girl wants to play and all you want to do is to crawl into a closet and cry all day. I know how scary it is to live at the brink of suicide each day. I know that you believe your family will be better off without a despicable woman like you." I stared at Aida, wondering how this stranger knew the darkest secrets of my soul. "You're wrong, my darling," Aida said, pulling me closer into her arms. "I know you think there's no hope or treatment that will ever make you feel better. But I promise you, you have the power within to overcome this disease and rebuild a beautiful life for yourself and your family. I know it won't be easy, but one day, one step at a time, you can do it. I know because I have struggled with depression ever since I was 18 years old." Over the next 15 minutes, I listened to Aida with disbelief as she shared her struggles with depression and her relentless pursuit of recovery. For years, my family and physicians had insisted that I would get better, but I had no faith in their words. When the medications, shock treatment, and therapy had failed to heal me, I'd lost faith in medicine. When all my prayers and that of my family had failed to rescue me from the dark hell of depression, I had lost faith in God. And when a priest was invited to exorcise the demons in me and he molested me, I'd lost faith in humanity. But I believed Aida when she said I could recover, because unlike my family and physicians, she had walked through the dark abyss of depression and emerged into the light. Growing up in India, my only image of a woman with mental illness was that of a half-naked woman in tattered clothes, muttering incoherently, running down the streets of Bangalore, dogs chasing her, people pelting stones, calling her hoochie, crazy. I was afraid I would end up like her, raised in a culture where mental illness was deemed as madness caused by demonic spirits. I had no concept of recovery. But meeting Aida and hearing her story changed my perception and helped me believe for the first time that I could recover just like she had. Although Aida's visit was short, she gave me the gift of hope that had sustained me for a lifetime. Over the years, I've been most grateful for Aida's gift of hope. Her story literally saved my life. Because of Aida, I see a life filled with possibilities. Because of Aida, my children have a mother. Because of Aida, I discovered the courage to share my story to give hope to others on their road to recovery and wellness. I met Aida for the last time on March 12, 2014. Even though her husband was in the hospital and she was in a wheelchair, she came to celebrate my book launch at the Powell City of Birth. I will cherish this picture of Aida and me forever. As always, she was whispering words of encouragement into my ears. Aida died 4 months later, but her legacy of hope will live on forever. Ladies and gentlemen, there is an Aida in all of us. Each of us has the capacity to reach out and embrace a person struggling with mental illness with love and compassion. Each of us has the opportunity to share our story, to give hope and help them on their road to recovery. Perhaps we can change a life or even save a life, just like Aida did. Next slide, please. Days after meeting Aida, I suffered a miscarriage, which only worsened my depression and suicidal ideation. I became paranoid that my husband would divorce me, take custody of our 3-year-old daughter, and move back to India because I had disgraced him and our family. Finding no reason to live, I began to scream, "I want to die, I want to die." And I was locked up in the isolation cell for the second time in 10 days. It was the most traumatic experience of my life, yet ultimately life-transforming. Getting locked up set me free. Getting locked up set me free to ask questions that I'd long buried in my heart. Am I crazy, or is the world around me crazy? Is psychiatric care therapeutic or traumatic? And most important of all, what is the purpose of my life? Getting locked up set me free to realize that while mental illness can break my mind and the mental health system can confine my body, there are no walls in this world that can contain my spirit. Getting locked up set me free to imagine a life beyond the confines of the isolation cell and the limitations of my illness. Getting locked up set me free to create a life of meaning and purpose. On April 30th, 1989, confined in the seclusion room of a psychiatric ward, stripped of freedom, dignity, hope, and humanity, I promised to emerge a messenger of hope and healing. For every indignity that I had suffered in shame and silence, I promised to fight to restore my dignity and the dignity of others like me around the world. And for every moment that my family and I had lived in despair, I promised to bring hope to the lives of others like us. I had absolutely no idea how to realize my promise, but it kept me alive. Although my stay at the psychiatric hospital was traumatic, it was ultimately life-transforming. For the first time in my life, I met others like myself in the hospital, people with mental illness, and I realized that I was not alone. For nearly a decade, I had wandered through the dark alleys of depression, alone, ashamed, and afraid. But here amidst the so-called lunatics of the world, I found love, acceptance, and understanding that I had long craved for and denied in the world of normal. And in our shared struggles, I discovered strength and solidarity. The caring staff and the many educational opportunities and therapeutic interventions they offered helped me pave my path to recovery. Unfortunately, as I began to get well, my brother developed depression and my sister developed schizoaffective disorder. Yet again, my family was tested and torn apart by mental illness. Fortunately, with effective treatment, self-determination, and the unconditional love and support of family and friends, each of us have created a healthy, meaningful, productive life. While my family and I celebrated our successful recoveries, I grew increasingly concerned about the barriers to recovery faced by the 450 million men, women, and children suffering from mental illnesses around the world. So, in April 2006, along with a dedicated group of mental health advocates, I started ASHA International, a nonprofit organization dedicated to promoting mental health awareness and bringing hope and healing to people's lives. 17 years from the time I had made my promise in that isolation cell, I finally found a way to serve my common humanity as a messenger of hope and healing. ASHA literally means hope, both in Sanskrit, one of the world's most ancient languages which originated in my home country, India, and in Hindi, India's national language. In English, ASHA is the acronym for A Source of Hope for All Touched by Mental Illness. At ASHA International, we offer people hope in all that we do, and we offer a wide variety of mental health awareness programs, wellness workshops, cultural competence training, peer mentoring, referrals, and resources. To learn more about ASHA International's programs and impact, please visit myasha.org. When I started ASHA International, all I wanted was to share my story, the lessons that I had learned in pain, to bring hope to one person struggling with mental illness. Never in my wildest dreams did I imagine that I would have the opportunity to give hope to thousands of people around the world. This year, as we prepare to celebrate ASHA International's 10th anniversary, I am filled with gratitude that my colleagues and I have had the privilege of reaching out and touching the lives of more than 45,000 people nationally and internationally with a resounding message of hope and healing. Together, we are tearing down the insidious walls of shame and stigma and empowering people on their road to recovery and wellness, one day, one person at a time. Over the years, we have witnessed the power of personal stories to save lives and create social change. Stories just like yours and mine. At a wellness workshop I was presenting in India, I met Altaf, a young Muslim man struggling with depression. I was told by the organization, the Schizophrenia Awareness Association of India in Pune, that Altaf used to attend their support groups for more than a year. He would commute 2 hours each way by train to attend these support groups. Although he was very regular in attending the support group, he hardly ever spoke or participated. And here we were at an all-day mental health awareness and wellness camp. And there was this young Muslim man as we were getting ready to gather in a circle to share about what we learned and our hopes and our dreams. He gave me a gift that he had made in his own hands, a gift of Lord Ganesh, the elephant-faced god that he had etched onto copper. It was just so beautiful that it really touched me deeply. That a young Muslim man was giving a Hindu woman the gift that he had made of the most loved and beloved Hindu god, Ganesh. I was so deeply touched, I requested Altaf if he could inscribe a blessing for me on the back of it. And this is what he wrote. It was my dream to be an architect. Due to my illness, this dream had turned to ashes. But new hope has arisen like a phoenix out of these ashes. Today's program and Gayathri have inspired me to fly again. I requested Altaf if he would be kind enough to just share a few words in the sharing circle at the end of the day. And he stood up and shared the value of our gathering that day and all that he had learned and how he was going to integrate into his life. He spoke for more than 20 minutes, and all of us just sat there dumbfounded, listening to this man who had been silent for years come alive. Such is the power of stories. Barb, an inmate at the Coffee Creek Correctional Facility in Wilsonville, Oregon, sent me a card one day. I was a speaker for the NAMI In Our Own Voice program several years ago, and I had begged and requested and begged my coordinator to allow me to present at the Coffee Creek Correctional Facility for women. And my coordinator has said that they would find nothing in common with me. Me, a woman from India, me, a woman with graduate degree, me, a woman with no records of incarceration, that they would never find anything in common with my story. And yet, for a year, I had persisted that what we would have in common, and she would learn if she gave me the chance to share my story with them, was the collective humanity, our shared struggle and our shared resilience. Finally, she relented and allowed me to present at the facility. And this is the card that I received from one of the women at the facility. Dear Indian woman, I'm sorry I can't remember your name, but I want to thank you for sharing your story with us. For the first time, I feel hopeful and can imagine a life beyond the confines of my illness and these prison walls. Alta's Dog and Aida taught me the incredible truth. Mental illness has no barriers, not of age, gender, race, culture, or socioeconomic status. And more importantly, hope and healing have no boundaries. It did not matter that Altaf was a Muslim man and I was a Hindu woman. It did not matter that Barb was incarcerated and I was free. It did not matter that Aida was Armenian and I was Indian. The gift of hope unites and heals us all. In addition to giving hope to people struggling with mental health issues, our stories have the power to change perceptions among healthcare providers and inspire them to provide better care to their patients. A few years ago, I was presenting at a conference for family physicians in my hometown, Bangalore, India. I walked up to the conference room in the hotel, dressed in a sari, and the gentleman that was going to facilitate the conference welcomed me and said, "Oh, but I'm sorry that you must be in the wrong conference room. I think you might be looking for the Filmfare Awards, which is being held at a different conference room in the hotel." And I introduced myself, and I said, but I do think that I'm in the right room because my name is Gayathri Ramprasad. I'm a mental health advocate, and I'm here to present and share my story with the family physicians here today. And he was very embarrassed. He said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I thought you're a film star here for the Filmfare Awards event in the other conference room." Well, but all confusion aside, I went on and presented, shared my story, and made the case for the integration of mental health care with family care, internal medicine, just the integration of mental health into health, period, across all platforms and specialties. And towards the end of the evening, the doctor walked up to me and said, "Again, I'm sorry for the earlier confusion, but thank you so very much because you have completely changed my perception of a person with mental illness. Thank you for that." I was really grateful that just by sheerly showing up and sharing my story, my humanity, my struggles, my strength, I could change the perception of a caregiver, a family physician that provided care for thousands of families across my hometown. I was able to help him transform his perception of a person living with mental illness, much like most of us do in our society around the world. We have such limited perceptions of a person with mental illness, and yet we know the truth that people with mental health issues are people with potential, with incredible strength and resilience and gifts to share with our world. And it is our responsibility as people living with mental illness to create this change, this social change, the change of perceptions, change of beliefs and attitudes towards people living with mental illness. Several years after we had met, the doctor sent me a note. "Dear Ms. Gayathri, you've been doing a great job promoting awareness of mental health issues. In fact, I have been seeing more cases of minor and major depressive disorders in all age groups about 12 years. I was shocked when a 14-year-old girl was brought to me for some unexplained lethargy and unrelated symptoms. She filled out a primary mental health questionnaire in my clinic and answered in the affirmative for suicidal thoughts in the previous 2 weeks. She was saved by prompt counseling and treatment from an expert psychiatrist. Her mother, who is a widow, was absolutely shocked that her daughter could have possibly even thought about ending her life. Thank you so very much for all that you do to promote mental health awareness and to empower people struggling with mental health issues to recover and thrive." Each of us has this opportunity to be able to share our story, to change perceptions, beliefs, behaviors, attitudes. And it has tremendous impact on the people that they provide care for. Throughout the years, every time I shared my story across U.S., India, Singapore, and Australia, people asked if I had written a book, and so I did. Meera Nair, an Indian-born Oscar-nominated filmmaker, once said, "If we don't tell our stories, no one else will." Like Meera, I come from a country of 1.2 billion people, with one of the highest rates of depression and suicide. Millions of Indians are struggling with mental health issues in India, in the U.S., and the world around. But we struggle in silence. Deep-rooted misperceptions about mental illness, combined with the stigma and shame that's surrounding these disorders, devastate our lives. But as a culture, we don't want to talk about it. As a mother and mental health advocate, I decided to share my story to break the silence about mental illness and start the conversation about mental health, not just in India, but around the world. In 2014, I published my memoir, Shadows in the Sun, Healing from Depression and Finding the Light Within. It is the first ever memoir of a journey to mental illness written by a person of Indian origin, and the first Indo-American memoir of a journey through depression. I am deeply grateful to my readers around the world. They tell me that my story gives them hope and helps them believe that recovery is possible. At a book launch in Seattle, a woman sat in the audience, stone-faced. Or so I thought. I was disappointed that I couldn't connect with her. At the end of the reading, she squirmed in her seat and said, "Can I say something?" Of course, I said. My mother was an incredible woman, she said, tears rolling down her cheeks. She was brilliant and fluent in English, German, and French. But as a child, I was terrified when she would sing to me, "I want to die, I want to die. I do not know the reason why." "Thank you for sharing your story," she said. "I feel like I finally exhale. After 40 years of holding my breath, my fears and pain, hearing your story has helped me understand my mother for the first time in my life." Dear friends, stories have the power to destigmatize mental illness, give hope, and empower people on their road to recovery. Stories have the power to create a new world of understanding and compassion and inclusion. It's time now for people living with mental health issues to stand up in solidarity and share their stories, to tear down the insidious walls of stigma and advocate for the healthcare, human rights, and social justice of every man, woman, and child struggling with mental health issues around the world. Together, we will persist and thrive. Next slide, please. There are so many, many ways that we can share our story to make a difference. Through speaking, writing, and multimedia platforms, to mention just a few. Today, I'd like to invite you to share your story through ASHA International's You Can Recover project. Next slide, please. The You Can Recover project's mission is to give hope to people struggling with mental health issues around the world and inspire them with personal insights on how to recover and rebuild a healthy, meaningful, productive life. To learn more about the project, please visit our website. Next slide, please. At ASHA International, we believe that mental health issues are part of the continuum of human experience. And regardless of our diagnosis, each has the potential to create healthy, meaningful lives. To see recovery videos, please visit our website. Next slide, please. And I invite you to share your story of how you are overcoming a mental health issue and provide countless others around the world with the inspiration and hope that they too can recover and rebuild their lives. To submit your story, please visit our website. You'll find all the steps in a simple script to help you to create and submit your story. Since the launch of the You Can Recover project on October 10, 2016, 42 peers have shared their stories, and 2,851 people have viewed these videos. Just the other day, a woman from London called to say she was deeply touched and inspired by their story. She said the story gave her hope and insight into wellness practices that she can integrate to improve her health and well-being. Next slide, please. I will be videotaping stories for the project at the upcoming iNAPS conference in Philadelphia, August 26th through the 28th. If you're attending the conference and want to participate in the project, please come and find me. Thank you. Next slide, please. Here are a couple of books that will be great resources to help you craft, practice, and share your story to make a difference. Living Proof and Talk Like TED. I continue to learn from both of these incredible books. The books are available on Amazon and bookstores and very likely in your local libraries. Next slide, please. Here is an exercise from Living Proof to help you discover your 6-word reason why you want to be an advocate and share your story. Please feel free to share your 6-word reason when we start the Q&A session in just a few minutes. Next slide, please. Here's another great resource from Living Proof, the 5 qualities of a well-told advocacy story. Hope you find it helpful. Next slide, please. I'd like to share a few tips for effective storytelling. Like many people, I used to be terrified of public speaking. I still remember presenting a keynote at a fundraising luncheon. It was one of my first keynotes. I remember that I couldn't stop shaking. I was terrified. I jumbled my words and faint, and the audience would be so disappointed in me. But when I stepped off the podium, grateful, relieved just to be done, a young woman in her 20s tapped me on the shoulder softly. "May I please talk with you in private?" she asked, her hazel brown eyes brimming with tears. "Tonight was going to be the night," she said softly, squeezing my hand. After years of struggling with depression, I had decided I was going to end it all tonight. But listening to your story has given me hope and helped me change my mind. Perhaps, just perhaps, like you, one day I will recover and be well again. Ever since that day, every time I'm scared to share my story, I remind myself to dare greatly, love deeply, and share my light. I sincerely believe that inherent in each of us is the light of love, wisdom, courage, and compassion that can transform our life and the lives of those we touch. Ladies and gentlemen, stories have the power to inform, inspire, and transform our lives and the lives of those we touch. So dare greatly, love deeply, and share your truth. You might change a life, even save a life. Namaste. Thank you.
Oh, Gayathri, thank you so much. What a powerful, powerful message you offered our audience today. This is absolutely wonderful, and thank you for sharing that. And for those of you that don't know it, Gayathri is going to be one of our keynote speakers at the upcoming iNAPS conference coming up in August. So here's an opportunity for you to take and hear more about what Gayathri is doing and the work that she's doing. But again, I want to thank you for your time today, and sorry about some technical difficulties we had, but you know what? We worked through them, didn't we?
We did. We triumphed like we always do, Peter, all of us. We don't give up. We just don't give up.
We don't give up, that's for sure.
We don't give up, and we shouldn't give up. And together, we're stronger, and we will fight. Next slide, I just wanted to mention, Peter has the contact information if anybody has questions and they wanted to contact me or anything.
Just put that slide up a second ago. Perfect timing.
Thank you.
And this is your opportunity to take and ask questions. Rita and I will try to monitor the chat box.
I cannot see the chat box, but please, if there's any questions, read it out to me, and I'd be more than happy to.
Absolutely. You have one message from Dee, and he is saying beautiful and encouraging.
Thank you.
We thought your message was a very powerful message. This is your opportunity to ask us any questions. Please remember to take in the send to part of the chat function. In the send to part, make sure you have listed everyone, and then please take and write your comment. Lisa says, great presentation as well, and beautiful, positive encouragement message. And Becky CPS question. Can you talk about the challenges of sharing difficult information and self-boundaries?
Sure, that's an incredibly important question. We're sharing our stories, and certainly our stories of struggle, of those dark times, and also, more importantly, of our strength, of our resilience, is what makes a difference. That's what gives people hope and practical insight. But it can also be difficult for us at first. I remember when I initially started to prison, I would wake up and cry because it was difficult to share these experiences. But once I could regain my perspective that I was sharing these stories with a purpose, it helped me shift my energy from one of pain to one of purpose. And so that's just one tip that I can give you. Practice, 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 and the intention. Always remembering why you're sharing it. Now, sharing the strength and resilience, you see, that not only gives hope to the listener, it's hope to yourself. It reminds you of your own strength, of your own resilience, every time you share that. And that, in the long run, is what has given me the strength. And when I said, love deeply, one has to dare greatly. Whether it's just the jitters of speaking or the fears of sharing or personal stories, they're all real fears. And we need to dare greatly. And love deeply, so often we are so caught up with our inner voices, the negative little chatterbox in our heads that goes, oh, you're not good enough, people are not going to care about what you have to say, you're making a fool of yourself, blah, 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 blah. The day that I started to shift my focus to the audience and say, I am doing this because I love my humanity. And I'm doing this because I have enough self-love for myself to respect me as a human being. It's both self-love and the love for all others. That gives you courage. And setting boundaries, I probably am not a great person at it because I'm still learning. When you share from your heart, which is what makes it powerful, which is what helps you connect with people around the world, there can't be boundaries. The minute the boundaries and barriers go up, people feel that. People can't connect with them. So it's a fine balance between dropping those boundaries and protecting your own well-being. And, just a couple years ago, when my book was launched and I was crisscrossing this country and India on multi-city bookstores, I didn't know how to manage those boundaries, and I did end up having to break down, not only because I couldn't manage those boundaries, but I had no time for self-care. And I learned the hard way that I needed to teach myself that I can't see everyone, that I can't fix anyone. That is their journey. My only calling, my only prayer is to share my story with a prayer that it will give them hope and the courage that they need to walk their path. And then make sure I take time for self-care. I hope that answers your question.
I think you did a beautiful job of answering her question. I got another comment from Robert. Robert says, thank you for a wonderful session. Thank you, iNAPS, for bringing this amazing woman and her eloquent storytelling to us. I had skipped a word from a comment from somebody earlier, T, because I wasn't sure how to pronounce it, and she has helped me to pronounce it. And Gayathri, I hope you'll understand the way I'm saying this. Namaste.
Namaste. Yes, the greeting that I started and ended with. For those of you that may not know the significance of the traditional Indian greeting, we hold a hand by a heart and our heads and say Namaste when we meet somebody. And what it literally means is the light in me honors the light in me. Because we believe inherent in each of us is the light of love, wisdom, courage, and compassion, which empowers us in our lives and the lives that we touch. So, Namaste. Thank you.
Very, very nice. And then also Becky says, thank you so much. It's been very inspiring. So Gayathri, you did one heck of a job. I'll tell you, you certainly had this audience right where you needed them and wanted them, and you gave them a message that they needed that they'll be able to take and carry to others. And isn't that what all of our work is?
The way with this
last word from me, if this is my last word, you have no idea what an inspiration you've been for. We met so many years ago, and you were this giant of a person, not just physically, in terms of your presence and your persona and your power in inspiring people. So, and Rita, I'm yet to meet you, and I can't wait to. So, Peter, thank you for being such a strength and such an inspiration.
Gayathri, you have been a leader and a mentor to me through this process. So I'm in awe of your ability, your skills, and I'm going to be perfectly honest and say it in this context. Your beauty is absolutely amazing, both internal and external.
Thank you.
And let me just say, you brought tears of joy to my eyes more times than I can count in your presentation, guys. Thank you so much.
All right, Rita, we have the slide up about the member benefits. So you want to talk about that?
Yep, very quickly, if you are a member of iNAPS and you would like a certificate for this webinar, just drop an email to membership@NALPS.org. And if you need help remembering that, just go to our homepage, and in the upper right corner, there's a link that you can click to. Just, we need to verify that you're a member, and then we'll send a link to the quiz. Thank you.
Thank you all very much for joining us. Gayathri, thank you so much for your wonderful message today. You are an inspiration, and I can't wait to see you next month in Philadelphia.
And I also want to thank David Barker again for reporting the session with people. He will be doing the recordings at the conference as well, so you'll have a great experience if you come and tell your story.
Thank you for reminding me of that. And David, thank you for all the work that you're doing for us as well. It takes a team to take and raise the village, so we're the team and we're raising the village. So
we are.
Thank you all very much. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. And please share the word that you heard today with others.